With Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers were 3 outs away from a combined no-hitter Monday night against Colorado. They didn't get the no-hitter, but they won the game 3-1. Reliever Tanner Scott gave up a leadoff double in the ninth to ruin what would have been the 25th no-hitter in the Dodgers franchise history. Tyler Glasnow held Colorado hitless in the first 7 innings. Things are not looking good for the UCLA football program and head coach Deshaun Foster. UCLA is 0-2 after losing to Utah and UNLV by a combined score of 73-33. The Bruins trailed Utah 20-0 before losing 43-10. They were down 23-0 at UNLV before losing 30-23. Foster needs to do something about the Bruins' slow starts. These are the kind of mental notes an athletic director or a school president make when evaluating coaches. UCLA is at home Friday night against New Mexico. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
Yeah, it's for the people. This is street radio for unsung hero. Riding in the Rego, trying to stay legal. My daughter found Nemo, I found a new primo. Yeah, you know how we do it for the people and the struggle of the brothers and the folks. The lovers of the dope, experiment to discover hope. Scuffle for notes, the rougher I wrote, times was harder. Went from rock starter to the voice of a martyr. Why white folk focus on dogs and yoga. My people on the low end trying to ball and get over. Lyrics are like liquor for the fallen soldier. From the bounce to the ounce, it's all our culture. Every day we hustling, trying to get them customers. Law, we ain't trusting them. Thick bras, we lusting them. Sick and tired of punching it. I look on the bus at them. When I see them struggling, I think I'm touching them.
Tavis, Smiley, I see what Miles is doing there. I'm about to go to Chicago here in just a second. And I've said many times, it's hard to pick a city that has contributed more to the rich musical traditions of this country than the city of Chicago. And Common is on that list. I'm going to Chicago in just a second after I tell you that on the B side of this hour. We'll be talking to best-selling author Kosoko Jackson about his adult fantasy debut. It's called The Macabre. The novel covers, it melds, I should say, horror, fantasy, and art history into a captivating story about these 10 cursed paintings and the lengths people will go to collect them, destroy them, or be destroyed in the process. Posting some pretty good numbers. This book is The Macabre, and we'll talk about that on the backside of this hour. We commenced this conversation, speaking of Chicago, in conversation with Teny Gross, founder and CEO of the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago, about why and how Chicago has experienced its lowest summer murder rate since 1965, and all that has to do with the person I regard as the greatest American this country's ever produced. You know who I'm talking about, MLK, Dr. King. Teny, good to have you on. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure to have you. Before I jump into a conversation about the murder rate being the lowest in Chicago, the summer murder rate since 1965, I do want to take your temperature on what everybody's talking about. We talked about it in our first hour today. The Trump administration has announced that they are now in full swing. They're ramping up in Chicago these ICE raids, and we saw the Supreme Court ruling yesterday that Trump can continue these indiscriminate arrests here in Los Angeles, where I sit. And so I suspect that ruling doesn't bode well for what's about to happen potentially in Chicago. But give me a sense of the mood there. We are all watching it on television. We see the protests. We've seen the governor speak, Mr. Pritzker. We've seen Brandon Johnson, the mayor, speak. But given that Chicago is The president can't keep Chicago out of his mouth these days. What's the mood in Chicago like right now?
I think the mood is one of both fear for people who know randomly can be picked up, even if they're family members who've been running a flower shop for 20, 30 years. So there's a real fear and anxiety. At the same time, this is a city of broad shoulders, and there's a lot of unity among different faith groups, all races, all parts of the city. So there's a lot of unity as well. Um, and this is a proud city, but we also don't underestimate what's coming to us.
Yeah. I think there's no other way to read what Donald Trump posted on his Truth Social platform over the weekend. There's no other way to read what he said about Chicago than just a flat out threat. He threatened the city of Chicago. And in the 24 hours after that, his people started trying to walk that back because they knew that the president had really gone too far, quite frankly, with what he posted on his social media platform. So again, they started trying to sort of walk that back. How did you read that? Was that just an explicit threat to the city of Chicago?
It is, but he has also said a lot of things about a lot of places and changed that. I think this country is still made of more than 300 million people. Most of them are good and moral, and there's still orders, some people to be followed, and some people to really think about what they're doing as actors. So, yeah, that post was a threat, but it's not like his regular posts are not unusual either. It's really then the implementation. I spent last night late when I came in reading the 31 page decision by the Supreme Court on LA, which was mainly the dissent by Sotomayor.
Mm-hmm.
The decision itself was extremely short. So there are other parts of our government too that we need to keep an eye on.
Yep. Before I get to your work as founder and CEO of the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago and the connection to King, with this summer murder rate being the lowest since 1965, let me interrogate the latter first. What's happening in Chicago that's allowing this crime rate to sort of plummet? We see it happening in other cities. And interestingly, as I've said 1,000 times, all the cities on Trump's hit list, L.A. and Baltimore and Chicago, etc., have seen their crime rates go down over years now. In D.C., for that matter, crime rates are down. The same has happened in Chicago. The summer murder rate, as I mentioned a moment ago, is the lowest since 1965. Why is that? What's happening there? Or what's not happening there in Chicago?
So, a lot, as someone who's been practicing this work for 35 years, starting in Boston with African American Pentecostal church during the crack epidemic, community work has a role to play side by side law enforcement
Mm-hmm.
in terms of public safety. And when you unleash the community and you support people, results will follow. Boston still is one of the safest cities in the country, going on 30 years. We did in Providence, we did in LA, New York, other cities, and what we've seen the last few years, previous administration, and really the idea of community violence intervention has gone national. And to see the joy of people in neighborhoods that have been attacked for so long and just seen shootings and incarceration, when people from those communities are supported and trained and in coordination with law enforcement are working to solve their own problems, you see results. It's hard earned. I'm not someone who will be a salesperson and say, look how great we're doing. I get woken up for every shooting in 3 neighborhoods in Chicago that are my territory, and it's often. This is not like we do not have a problem.
Yeah.
But the results are very, very encouraging. It's very hard earned. 5% would have been hard earned. 30% is quite remarkable. And like you said, I was born in 1965. So since I was born, this is the safest Chicago has been. But no one here is celebrating.
Yeah, yeah.
We take a moment, then we dive back into the corners, into engaging young people, into creating workforce, into Our victim advocates working with families through their grief. So this is an ongoing work. No one here is declaring any successes.
Yeah, that's a fascinating point that Teny just makes. It just sort of jumped out at me, as I'm sure it did you. He was born in 1965, and so this is the safest Chicago that he's lived in. That's fascinating. That comment was arresting for me. He's the founder and CEO of the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago. Their mission is to end the cycle of gun violence in Chicago. We'll talk about that and the connection to MLK when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Oh, could this vintage store be any cuter?
Right? And the best part? They accept Discover.
Accept Discover? In a little place like this? I don't think so, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, huh? Discover's accepted where I like to shop. Come on, baby, get with the times.
Right, so we shouldn't get the parachute pants?
These are making a comeback. I think.
Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. Based on the February 2025 Nielsen report.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight flu, pneumococcal pneumonia, RSV, and COVID-19. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and help strengthen your immune response. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. Schedule in minutes at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. It's the Sleep Number biggest sale of the year. All beds on sale up to 50% off the limited edition smart bed. Plus free premium delivery with any smart bed and adjustable base. Ends Labor Day. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
That my basic philosophy, which grows out of the nonviolent tradition, is that a moral man cannot in good conscience accept injustice and adjust to an evil system. He must resist it. He has a moral obligation to resist evil. But in resisting it, he must recognize that he stands on higher moral grounds when he will resist that unjust system nonviolently. The individual seeks to achieve moral ends through moral means, and I think this is what nonviolence is saying in the final analysis, that means and ends must cohere, and that in order to bring about a just society and a righteous society, it is necessary to use just and righteous methods.
Means and ends must cohere, says Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Our guest in this half hour of our program is Teny Gross, founder and CEO of the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago. I'm going to jump ahead right quick here because I don't want to lose track of this or lose this thought, Teny. When you listen to that clip of Dr. King, what one is reminded of, and we don't often talk about this, and I'm a King student, you're a King student, so I've spent a lot of time wrestling with this over the years. You know, as King saw it, nonviolence really ought to target evil systems and unjust policies. That's what King is talking about. Using nonviolence to target evil systems and unjust policies, not merely or not even the individuals that or who are enacting that evil. So it's about the systems and the policies, not so much necessarily about the individuals. I only raise that because we spend so much time in commentary these days about Donald Trump and the evil that he is enacting, the way he's showing up in these cities that happen to all have black mayors. I repeat once again for the umpteenth time, I don't want us to ever lose sight of that. I mentioned earlier on today's program that the 4 cities right now with the worst crime rates happen to be cities in red states. Jackson, Mississippi, and Birmingham, Alabama. I ran the list earlier. Memphis, Tennessee. I ran the list of St. Louis, Missouri. These are all red states. Donald Trump ain't rushing up in those states. He don't want to tussle with those red states and those Republican governors. So he's choosing these cities that happen to have black mayors in states that happen not to be so red. But again, my point is that King is talking about nonviolence as a way to target systems and unjust policies, not so much the individuals, but we spend so much time talking about Donald Trump, as we should, that we lose sight of King's real point, if that makes any sense to you, Teny Gross.
Makes tremendous sense to me. You know, biographically, I'm an Israeli Serbo-Croatian background. Took my 2 sons to Croatia they wanted to see where my parents were born, and their parents were killed by fascists in Croatia, Croatian fascists, who even the Germans were like, wow, they have more hate than we do to the Jews. So, and growing up as I was a soldier in the Israeli army, and coming to college in America, I was blown away by SNCC first, the Student Nonviolence Coordinating Committee. They were my age 50 years ago, and they resisted nonviolently. I was a soldier in an army. It took courage to do what I did, but I was saying to myself, it doesn't even compare to those who were in the South during the civil rights movement, facing real violence, and quite a few died. People don't know that. Mm-hmm. Quite a few died in the South. So I was first shamed, but then I was inspired about how you build a real more just society is by really seeing that we're all humans and to try and help. So it drove me to connect with the Pentecostal church in Boston, like I said, during the crack epidemic, and be an ally. Because again, one of my lessons in Europe I grew up is, how come the Europeans abandoned us? And it took me years to come to terms that some people in Europe refuse to be bystanders, and we cannot be bystanders here. When some communities have more poverty, more addiction, more violence, there's something that in a democracy, there's no guarantee for a healthy society. We got to work on it every day. So to me, King is probably the greatest American. I'm inspired. He was flawed as well. We all know that, sure. The courage, and he knew he was going to get killed for his courage. And he kept pushing and pushing. And I can say that in 3 cities that I worked with, empowering the community, working with the community inspires both law enforcement, inspires donors, inspires others that we can solve. We don't need to live in those conditions, but it takes a lot of hard work. Yeah. And I think the first principle of nonviolence, and I totally agree with, nonviolence is not for cowards, it's for courageous people. And as someone who used an M16 and an Uzi, we're all made of meat. It's not difficult to destroy. I know how to do it. It takes a lot more courage to build things and work with people and face sometimes violent realities with nonviolence.
Yeah. You said a couple of things I want to interrogate. The first a comment to your commentary about Dr. King. I find myself saying more and more these days, particularly as Donald Trump moved to release all these pages years early about Dr. King that the family did not want released. I find myself saying more and more these days, Teny, that King was a public servant, not a perfect servant. He was a
Yes.
public servant, not a perfect servant. And we should always keep that in mind, number one. Number two, I am fascinated. I want you to tell me a bit more about this. I'm watching my time here. But I was fascinated by your just honest admission that at first you were shamed and then you were inspired. Tell me more about that dialectic, that link between being shamed and being inspired. Because I'm wrestling with this because, you know, I don't know how we shame more people in this country, but maybe the way to inspire people to do better is to shame them. Again, I don't know how we would do that writ large, but I'm fascinated by, again, that dialectic that you experienced of first being shamed and then being inspired. Can you tell me more about that journey?
Sure. So my mother was a Christian Serb in Israel, made sure I read 40 Days for Musa Dag, which was about the Armenian genocide. She wanted to make sure I don't think I'm the only victim and feel self-pity. And then coming to America and seeing the 400 years here of suffering that many African American has gone through, you don't need to compare disasters. You just, as long as your disaster makes you more empathetic as opposed to just thinking about yourself, there's an opportunity for growth. And the first food that my father got after World War II in Zagreb, in Croatia, was for an American GI. So for the rest of us around the world, we look to America with gratitude. This was the place that really we thought, and I had a lot of arguments in Europe. I was called a Reaganite when Reagan was a president. And just because I said America's twice sent its children to die for freedom. They didn't have to do that. The United States has two oceans, Canada and Mexico around it. It doesn't have immediate enemies, and yet twice it sent its children, its fathers, to death for the idea of freedom. So I take that very serious, and while my time on this planet is limited, I want to use it for the good of my fellow humans.
Yeah. So tell me why or how you were called upon to be the founder and CEO of the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago.
So after I worked with the Pentecostal church in Boston, we had dramatic reductions. Some people call it the Boston Miracle. I was recruited by a Catholic church to help in Rhode Island, where there was a mayor that went to jail twice. There was corruption in the police. And again, through patience, slow, there's no magic bullet to this. We changed the culture in Rhode Island and in Providence and got great results. Our field was pretty small. I helped start the National Network for Safe Communities at John Jay College in New York. We knew each other and eventually saw quite a bit of pressure from the city of Chicago and foundations. And some colleagues were, Teny, we could really use you helping us here in Chicago. They were doing some great things, but some things were not working out. And 10 years ago, I came here. I almost regretted it immediately. It is a tough, difficult, complex city, and I love it now more than ever. It is hard work. There's no guarantees. We can fail, but it's worth it when I see young people that wear constantly on the picture of the police of someone who needs to be arrested are causing headaches. And are now we have 9 staff who just graduated college with BAs. We brought a college from Rhode Island to Chicago so our staff can redeem themselves. They want to do that. They want to partake in the opportunities life has to offer. And to see them in their graduation saying, we were told all our life we ain't worth, I won't say the last word. And now look at us with BAs. Some of them are registering to master's degrees. That's what life is about. When you're selfish, you just think of yourself. I live through the successes of others, and there's so many successes.
Yep. My sense is, I'd love to be wrong about this, Teny, but my sense is that we're living in a world right now, particularly in this era of Donald Trump, where people are becoming more and more nativist. And I don't know how you balance nativism or how up against that kind of nativism you convince people to attempt to understand, to attempt to become friends with the opponents, to find reason to compromise, to resolve injustices. I don't know how any of that happens in a world where people are becoming more and more nativist and becoming more and more insular. Does that make sense?
It does. We gotta then also, King said we gotta work on faith and believe. And I think both sides, also on the left, we've started to cancel people. We forgot the task of we want the world to be perfect the way we see it. And we stopped listening to the right as well. And the middle has disappeared in politics. When I came to the United States 30 something years ago, there were many congressmen and senators who were Republicans and had friendships with Democratic legislators. They spent the weekends together. Their kids went to the same school. We got to rebuild the middle of this country, right? In a democracy, ideas from the extremes left and right are important to be tested, but they got to eventually stand the time and test of the middle. And even our media today, if you read the New York Times, it's just one set of. Yesterday, the reporting on the decision in LA wasn't that great. I went to read the actual Supreme Court decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to rebuild the middle. I think media is fragmented. Mainstream legacy media, with all its fault, has collapsed in many localities.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't share a dialogue anymore, and we got to rebuild that. Whether it's houses of faith, whether it's talking to each other, we have to do that.
Yep. Here's my exit question in the 2 minutes I have left here, Teny Gross. How do you convince people, given that there's so much evidence to the contrary in the Middle East and beyond? Nobody seems to believe that nonviolence is the most effective and ethical response to conflict. Nobody seems to believe that. How do you convince them otherwise?
So, in nonviolence, we have the pacifists, and that's, I think, King was, etc. I'm not.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of room to act before you use violence, and there's the recognition as a former soldier and someone who visits Croatia and Serbia and Belfast and Guatemala and Brazil and works in American cities. There's a lot of room to act in nonviolence before. Israelis and Palestinians do have a right to eventually self-defend themselves, but it can very quickly become an excuse to inflict pain, unnecessary pain, unproportional pain. And you cannot guarantee, you can guarantee who you're going to hit. You cannot guarantee what's coming back at you. And that is about gang violence. That is about our government. That is about Israel. We have a right to defend ourselves, but that doesn't give us just a free license. And that's why nonviolence is so important. You should use of violence, to me, and I'm not a perfect nonviolence practitioner, should be absolutely, absolutely the last resort.
They're going to need
self-defense.
Yeah. They're going to need the work of Teny Gross now more than ever in Chicago, as the Trump administration seems to be pushing more and more into that city to do what they've done or are doing in Washington, D.C. right now. The governor and the mayor are pushing back, but the Trump folk are there. And if you believe what they say, these ICE raids, these indiscriminate arrests are going to escalate, not de-escalate. And so you need somebody like Teny Gross, the founder and CEO of the Institute for Nonviolence Chicago, to be on the front lines as he is, given the invasion that we are witnessing right now in the city of Chicago. Teny Gross, good to have you on. Thank you for your work and your witness. Appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A quarter of Texas college professors say they've applied for jobs out of state after a ban on mandatory diversity programs. Sherry Sylvester with the Texas Public Policy Foundation says, good riddance. Critics argue the professors are upset about censorship, but once used DEI to silence others. Black Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley is urging the Fed to act as black unemployment climbs to 7.5%, up from 6% in February, largely due to job losses among black women and DEI rollbacks. And journalist Frederica Polidoro is facing backlash for excluding actress Ayo Debris from a question on Me Too and Black Lives Matter. Polidoro denies racism, citing her diverse background and journalistic experience. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning projects. Students and teachers, how can you spark great learning experiences in your classrooms today? Join at thinkitup.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers were 3 outs away from a combined no-hitter Monday night against Colorado. They didn't get the no-hitter, but they won the game 3-1. Reliever Tanner Scott gave up a leadoff double in the ninth to ruin what would have been the 25th no-hitter in the Dodgers franchise history. Tyler Glasnow held Colorado hitless in the first 7 innings. Things are not looking good for the UCLA football program and head coach Deshaun Foster. UCLA is 0-2 after losing to Utah and UNLV by a combined score of 73-33. The Bruins trailed Utah 20-0 before losing 43-10. They were down 23-0 at UNLV before losing 30-23. Foster needs to do something about the Bruins' slow starts. These are the kind of mental notes an athletic director or a school president make when evaluating coaches. UCLA is at home Friday night against New Mexico. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, KBLA 1580 delegation, your health matters to us. We know that information is power, especially when it comes to prevention and treatment. That's why we're proud to introduce the brand new KBLA Health and Wellness Hub. This online space is built just for you, connecting our community to trusted health resources, culturally relevant care, and even access to diverse clinical trials and emerging therapies. Whether you're looking for information on common conditions, mental health support, or just want to stay on top of your wellness journey, we got you. And the best part, it's all on our website at KBLA1580.com. Accessible, empowering, community-focused. So just go to KBLA1580.com and click on the Health and Wellness Hub icon, because knowledge is power and your health is everything. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, they've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself. Shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com
Paid
today.
for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
More honesty than you can handle. More empowerment than you can imagine. You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
You are indeed, and I'm glad about it. Conversation now with the best-selling author, Kosoko Jackson, on his adult fantasy debut. It's called The Macabre. The novel melds horror, fantasy, and art history into a captivating story about 10 cursed paintings and the lengths people will go to collect them, destroy them, or be destroyed in the process. Delighted to welcome best-selling author, Kosoko Jackson, to this program. How are you today, sir?
Doing well. How are you?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate, man. I'm doing well, and good to be good to be in conversation with you. I think that people know you. Your fans certainly recognize you as a best-selling author of several YA novels, and by YA, that's just industry talk for the young adult readers, typically 12 to 18. So that's where you've sort of really made a name for yourself, and sort of a lot of books in that space. Why this jump? Why this pivot to the adult world?
I've always wanted to write adult, Tavis. It's been something that I've been gearing myself up for, increasing my writing skills. When I first wanted to become an author, I decided that I wanted to become one when I was about 15 or 16 years old. I knew the stories that meant the most to me were in the adult area. You can have more complicated discussions. I can really push myself lyrically and word-wise, and I can approach things from different angles that you can't approach in YA. I love my YA books. I think it's so important to have books for young teenagers that empower them. We usually say that books are windows or mirrors. They either reflect yourself or show you a world that you've never seen before. And oftentimes for teenagers, it's the first time seeing something completely out there. And that's a powerful expectation and job requirement for a young adult author. But there's also some limitations in what we can write and what we can discuss that allows me to explore those different topics inside of adult books.
If you knew you wanted to be in the adult space all along, just curious as to why you started then in the YA space.
Great question. I grew up loving YA books. I lived about 50 minutes from my house, from my school. And so I drove back and forth with my mom every day and in the car. Those were the books that really got me into reading and saw myself in a world and helped form of who I was as a person. I think I always knew that I wanted to write adult books, but I knew I had some strength and some skills that I had to build up. And also adult books are more competitive. It's harder to publish an adult book if you think about how many adult books come out in every single year. And I really wanted to start in a place where I could build my skills up and create books for a younger version of myself that could help them navigate complex topics like they did for me when I was younger.
As I mentioned, you are known by many readers, of course, across the country as the best-selling author of a number of YA novels. So you sort of mastered that particular frame. Tell me, because I'm curious, what are young adult readers? I'm especially concerned about young adult readers of color for obvious reasons. But what are young adult readers looking for when they read, when they decide to pick up a book?
I think it can be boiled down to three specific topics.
Okay.
One, I think young adult readers want books that really reflect their life as they do now. A lot of young adult authors are in their 30s or 40s, and they write for books that feel like they were written for themselves in the early 2000s. That doesn't mean that your books have to have like modern Gen Z slang, but it has to deal with topics that kids are discussing and dealing with nowadays. The kids are not removed from the political issues of today, the struggles that they deal with. They say that everything an adult deals with, a teen also deals with, and the books have to touch on that. Additionally, we're seeing in our industry that teen readers are actually looking for shorter books just because reading attention spans, expectations in their lives. And so I think there was a time when we wanted 400, 500, 600-page YA books, but being able to truncate your story and tell a succinct, impactful story in a shorter time span for reading is incredibly important for teens. And more importantly, they want to not be talked down to. I think a lot of books dumb their reading level down for teenagers for that exact reason, just because they're shorter. But teens are at the age when they are finding themselves looking for autonomy, and they want to be treated like young adults, not like young children.
For parents listening all across the country right now who may be hearing the name Kosoko Jackson for the first time and may be getting exposed to your work for the first time, give me some sense, give the audience a sense of the kind of subjects, topics, themes that you've covered in your young adult novels in case they want to go pick those up.
Sure. So I come from a social justice background. I have worked in nonprofit my whole life. I come from a social justice family. So all of my books, no matter the genre, no matter how commercial they are, are about embedding some sort of lesson. My most recent YA that came out about 2 years ago, The Force Demands Its Due, discusses the importance of marginalized voices inside of academia and how to carve a space out for yourself in predominantly white institutions that, as many of us know, often beat out the blackness or the diverseness of people to make them fit a certain mold, and how to stand up against that. Survive the Dome, my book that came out before that, is all about the power of youth activists. We know growing up that some of the most important movements have come from young adults,
Oh, yeah.
not from adults. And so this book is all about what happens in Baltimore when police brutality gets out of hand and they isolate Baltimore with a dome that makes it impenetrable for any news or people to get out. And all of these teens band together to fight back against this corrupt police system.
There you go, parents. If you're looking for books for your young adults that you want them to read, that have social justice themes in them, but are also entertaining, I recommend to you the works of Kosoko Jackson. So tell me more about your upbringing. I'm fascinated by this social justice frame that you write in part because you were raised in it. Tell me a bit more about that.
Sure. So I came from Maryland, specifically Southern Maryland, and so I'm adopted. And I think my social justice upbringing came from the very minute that I was adopted. My mother decided that to navigate through this world as a Black man, there's a certain level of education that you need to be able to project about yourself. So she drove for my whole education an hour back and forth so that I could go to a private school so that I could have that leg up. I'm sure, as many of us know from The Amazing Scandal, Black people have to be twice as good to get half as much. And that really dictated a lot of my life. My mother was a huge activist when she was younger. My grandmother's home was a location for students against the Students for Nonviolence Committee back in the Civil Rights era. I went to the Million Man March with my father when I was younger. And so navigating the world as a Black man and figuring out how to carve that space and to stand up for yourself has been every beat of what my parents have tried to instill in me. And because of that, I went to work in nonprofit. I worked for Rock the Vote during the 2016 election. I worked for Ford Foundation to help to change philanthropy. I've worked in advertising, many nonprofit spaces that are predominantly white led and tend to have a very white leaning, affluent bend to them, and figuring out how to insert myself as a Black man to bring in more Black people, which shifted me to wanting to really do that in my writing. Creativity, arts, media, to me, is one of the most accessible ways that we can change people's minds. And so cultivating my parental upbringing, the things that my parents have taught me, and the education and the professional into this career to make the world a better place is everything that I try to do.
There are two things that I want to ask you about now, given what you've just said. And if I'm pushing too hard, you tell me and I'll back up. And if you don't want to address it, you don't have to address it. But I was struck by. I had a big smile on my face when you led so quickly and so affirmatively with the fact that you were in fact adopted. I'm thinking about all the conversations I've had, far too many, about how Black boys are the last ones to be adopted in this country. One, if you have any thoughts about that, given how your parents came and chose you, number one. And number two, I'm also curious as to whether or not adoption, the theme, has shown up in any of your works heretofore.
Yeah, totally fine. I do not mind talking about it. So my parents were very, very passionate about adopting a Black boy for that exact reason. My parents lived in DC. They moved down to St. Mary's County, an area where a lot of Black boys and Black girls are kind of thrown to the wayside, and they picked one who needed a family and needed a home. And my parents always wanted me to have that sense of knowing that I was adopted very early on. I wasn't one of those kids who had to wait till they were a teenager to figure out, because it's part of my story and it's part of who I am. And so my parents were very upfront about it. They were always open about if I wanted to investigate and to find my birth parents. And my parents have always just been very supportive of bringing me into their family and part of their mold. And I think as a society that we live in, Black children, like you said, are often the ones that are always left to the wayside. They're the ones that are last adopted. They're the ones when they get kidnapped in DC, especially Black girls, are never thought about. They're the ones who get the least media attention. And so my work tries to embody and to speak to those kids who often are not mentioned in media, who aren't mentioned in politics, who are always the last one to be thought about when creating campaigns, and to tell them that your voice matters, your existence matters, and it's important that we speak to you, because so many movements, changes, and things have not only happened because of young people, but young marginalized people of color.
Shout out to your parents, man. Shout out to your parents who made it their business to be certain to adopt a black boy. As I mentioned, so often the data tell us black boys are the last ones to receive that kind of love. So we shout out the parents of Kosoko Jackson. When we come forward, now that you understand a bit more about him and his backstory and how he started in YA novels, young adult novels, he's now made the switch to adult reading. And the book is called The Macabre. And we'll talk about it, or let him talk about it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From California to the Carolinas, everybody's listening to Tavis. More when we come forward.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte. Let's preserve black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandlost.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley is a pretty unique name. I never met another Tavis Smiley, but never met a Kosoko Jackson either. Tell about that first name, Kosoko.
Yeah, so it means stay healthy and strong. It's Nigerian, and my parents gave it to me for good luck when I was younger.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Makes you unique, and you'll never confuse anybody else with Kosoko Jackson, and that's a beautiful thing. So tell me about the Macabre. One of the things that I'm always mindful of when talking about novels, I tend to let the writer talk about it so that I don't get involved in spoiler alerts. So tell me what you can about the Macabre.
Of course. So the Macabre follows a painter from Baltimore named Louis Dixon, who's incredibly down on his luck. His mother recently died. He hasn't been able to create the art that he's proud of, and he feels like he's failing as an artist until he gets the opportunity of a lifetime when the British Museum reaches out to him and wants him to represent the United States as the figurehead for their exhibit about artists from colonies that Britain used to occupy. But this opportunity is a complete and total ruse. Britain has basically found 1 out of 10 of these paintings called the Macabre set, which are incredibly horrific with dark magic abilities and even darker origins. And they believe that Lewis, because his ancestor is the one who made them, has the ability to enter them, neutralize them, and control them. When he passes this test at the museum, the offer changes. They want him, with the help of another agent, to find these 9 remaining paintings all across the world because Britain believes that they should control them and keep them out of the hands of nefarious individuals or other countries. And in exchange, one of the most powerful and historic museums in all of history will use its influence to make Lewis the type of painter he's always wanted to be, an immortalized painter in the history of the art world. This is as much a really cool globe-trotting adventure. It takes place over almost every single continent, as it is a dark magic story with some kind of scary elements, as it is commentary on colonialism, the ideas of how we think about artists and how we elevate them or subtract them or don't value them, and the value that we put on history and the type of history that we elevate or not, and how that can change the world.
I love this social justice lens through which you see everything, and the fact that the colonialism is one of the themes that you address in this particular novel. So I'm fascinated by fiction writers. I say it all the time. I've written 24, 25 books, but I'm in the nonfiction world. I don't have the gift of writing fiction the way you do. But I'm always curious as to how a story like the one that you've just described, that is in fact the new book, The Macabre, A Picture is Worth 1,000 Nightmares. Where did this thought come from? How did this become the book? How did you dream this up is my question, I guess.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Like, my mom very much was focused on making sure that I was a worldly Black individual. And so when I was younger in high school, we tried to do an international trip every summer. And one of the ones that we did in 9th grade was to England. And we went to the British Museum and we took tours. And since then, I've always been thinking of this idea of how the sun never set on the British Empire because it was so big, but also that the British Empire took so much art and culture from other nations and just hasn't given it back. And it's been so interesting to me, this idea that we can just take other art and that changes history, right? Because history is written by the victors. So what if I told a story that focused on a Black individual who is being courted by this museum using allure and power, and in many ways, the commodification of Black bodies and Black culture as an idea to get him to do something that for once they cannot do. And what happens when he slowly discovers that there's something nefarious at play and uses his own strength to literally combat an empire at whole? And what type of story and empowerment does that give Black people on this large scale?
I love the way he thinks. A Picture is Worth 1,000 Nightmares. The new book from Kosoko Jackson is called The Macabre. Our remaining moments with him when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and best-selling author Kosoko Jackson. Got 2 minutes left in this conversation, which I've enjoyed immensely. So, Kosoko, how did you find the pivot from YA to A?
I found it to be fairly, in some ways, seamless. I think because, like we talked about earlier, it's something that I've always wanted to do. I've consumed a lot of adult novels, so I knew very early on the type of things that I would have to change about my YA writing to fit into adult. But there were some things that were challenges. Taking things to like that second or third level of depth for a layered story turned to be a little bit more complicated and complex than I thought it would be. I have a great editor at Harper Voyager who's been incredibly successful with these types of books, of shifting YA authors into adult authors, and was great in always asking me those type of yes and questions and more. I think artists often, it's a big choice to decide who's going to be the one to take your hand and to take your art and take it to the next level. And it's just as personal a choice as the type of books you want to write, as the type of editor you want to have. And my editor has been super helpful in that regard.
Are you done with YA novels?
Not at all. I have another YA coming out next year that, just like my social justice bend, actually deals with slavery, the idea of Black individuals reclaiming homes that were slavery plantations, and how history lingers in the South, and Black people rising up to fight against that.
Your parents done good, Kosoko. Your parents done good. His name is Kosoko Jackson. His first adult novel is called The Macabre. A picture is worth 1,000 nightmares, but he has made a name for himself in the YA world. I repeat once again, if you are a parent listening to this program anywhere in the country and you're trying to be selective about the things that you have your young adult read, you might want to consider any of the novels written, the YA novels written by Kosoko Jackson. They all have, again, a social justice theme running through it, and I celebrate that as I celebrate the release of this book called The Macabre. Kosoko, good to have you on the program. Congrats, my friend. All the best to you.
Thank you so much.
Good to have you on the program. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A quarter of Texas college professors say they've applied for jobs out of state after a ban on mandatory diversity programs. Sherry Sylvester with the Texas Public Policy Foundation says, good riddance. Critics argue the professors are upset about censorship, but once used DEI to silence others. Black Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley is urging the Fed to act as Black unemployment climbs to 7.5%, up from 6% in February, largely due to job losses among Black women and DEI rollbacks. And journalist Frederica Polidoro is facing backlash for excluding actress Ayo Debris from a question on Me Too and Black Lives Matter. Polidoro denies racism, citing her diverse background and journalistic experience. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Think It Up is an initiative to activate student-powered, teacher-led learning